The numbers are growing, but there are few that experience bipolar. And the symptoms, I was mentioning earlier that it's hard to work and support myself. I was saying that I can care for myself, but it's very difficult to support myself. I go to great lengths to do the best I can each day, each week, season after season, trying to get better. Not getting free from symptoms, getting free from a diagnosis, but being better. You could say being a better person, but when you have experienced the mind, it's too easy to say, oh, the person doesn't exist. But earlier today I was sharing to myself that it is always important to put oneself outside oneself as much as possible. Becoming a better person has started with making better habits, and these take time. But it's important that I know they take time, and that I can focus on the simple habits, simple patterns, simple routines, and work towards different categories and improve. Improve first on the ones that come easy. I was saying earlier today to myself that when you want something, you're going for it. It's not the thing that creates good habits. You have to say to yourself 2 words. No. The other word is a 4-letter one. So, yeah, fuck no. So you're saying, what's my bad habit lately? I really don't have many. And when I don't say that, I don't have any bad habits, but what I'm saying is that literally over the last 8 years, I've chiseled away at habits that I've wanted to chisel away at. So I changed habits. I did not set goals. This is an interesting time where everyone's can make a million hits on YouTube by selling you goal setting goals and meeting your goals. No. I could die tomorrow without having met any fucking goals. No, I'm serious about that. But habits, knowing where you are in your habits, to date, I'm pretty fucking satisfied. Not everyone can say that. Not everyone can wake up and be like, 90% of my day is exactly how I planned. And not what I did. Honestly, yeah, it can come down to how you feel. And even, let's say 90% of my day, I'm feeling the right way, right? I mean, shit, from 8 years ago, even before having a diagnosis, I call those the preliminary years. Man, I felt like shit. Whew. No continuity. Now, I have experienced manic highs. And I was telling myself just earlier that those highs go beyond all rationality. When you're doing things in your normal day that take away from your sleep, that's a big red flag. Now, this is where the link between helping someone who has no idea what a mental health illness is, what the common diagnosis or diagnoses are for the multiple mental health diseases that people are born into or onset into. I guess that was a complete thought. I guess going back to connecting the average person to the experience, and how anyone with, and this is for people with mental health diagnosis. I mean, if they're diagnosed, I was diagnosed in 2008, so I guess currently I say that I am diagnosed bipolar 8 years ago. So People can come to their own conclusions, and hopefully they come to their own conclusions by asking questions. If you don't have any questions, don't have to say anything, okay? But if you ever get a chance to go back to that person that said, hey, I've been diagnosed with a mental health illness, I'm sure you're going to think about it when you didn't, after you didn't say shit, and you go home and you're thinking about it. That's the time that, hey, maybe something crossed your mind. Maybe you had a question. Those are the questions you need to ask, right? Not when you go socialize with your friends and be like, oh yeah, did you hear about, about that? Yeah, isn't that weird? Or like, what do you think about it? I need to... No. You might have stigma, that's fine. I even have stigma, whatever, but it's when you're able to come to your own conclusions and gather more information that you break down the boundaries. It's really easy for peers to socialize with peers. But when someone has a mental health illness and they're wanting to share that, man, there can be such a disconnect. Even if it's the same age person. Even worse for me, I'm 32 right now, be 33 in about 3 months. So, man, I ask my peer when they have that blank stare, I ask them, well, do you know any of your peers have a mental health issue? Have mental health issues in their lives, or even diagnosed? And for the most part, no, I've not had that. 30-year-olds. So a lot of these, and it might just be the people they hang around. A lot of people have these issues come up in their early 20s, mid 20s. Okay, I was 24 when I had my first episode. I had no knowledge of any of the mental health diagnoses. See, but there's such a disconnect because you would rather consider yourself special than consider yourself, oh shit, I'm just, one of these, 5 to 10% of people with mental health issues, a mental health diagnosis, whatever it may be. But that's if it's 1 to 10% of the population, that's too large. When you're experiencing your first manic episode, you're thinking it's completely special. You're like, holy shit, you feel chosen. And then, even then, it's just like, that's exactly what I want to be. I want to be chosen. Even this happened it was 8 years ago, even 4 years ago. Fuck yeah, okay. I understand that everyone with a manic episode is chosen. Okay, there's not just one chosen person, but still, you want to be chosen. Okay, another 4 years later, 8 years from that first diagnosis. Fuck that shit. You want to die not feeling chosen. That's not symptoms. Man, we pick apart, I guess we as an I and whoever else wants to join in. I don't know, You can run with a bipolar, you can run with a mania and turn it into something. You see figures in the past with these symptoms. They never called it illness. Just flat out symptoms. Artists, musicians, and even those that looked at the world in a completely different view. Okay? And once you see the world in a different view, then you want to tell others. You want to tell everyone. You want to tell everyone the truth. Okay? I'll leave it at that. But, okay, so you're just let's say you're even up to 10% that has mental health diagnoses, has symptoms, okay? I guess maybe only 1% would experience the mania, schizoaffective symptoms, and symptoms of schizophrenia. Now these are the most powerful. They can shape your view in an instant, every instant. It changes all 5 senses. See, the thing is that people see the world so consistently. 4 years ago, maybe, I want to see the world. Well, 8 years ago, everyone needs to see the world in this way. 4 years ago, I need to see the world in this way. I don't know. One way or the other. You're probably just fine. It's so energy consuming. Picking away at the patterns, picking away at the earthly connections. Because now you're living in a society with thousands of people in a community connected to multiple communities across a region and connected globally. So it gets really easy. I guess that's a complete thought. I guess that's just the tip of the iceberg of mania. Scratch of the surface. I think most people were caught off guard that all 5 senses change. And it's not that they morph into different senses. It's the same 5 senses not giving you the same patterns they used to. Now it's not that you're not seeing the color red anymore, or the color red you're seeing is different than the color red somebody else is seeing, but that could be a common case of color blindness. People aren't seeing the same color. But that's still a very consistent fact. This is when the anomaly of your mind is so, I guess, powerful, but so when I was younger, I could daydream pictures on the wall. So I really enjoyed dreaming. Had a lot of scary nightmares growing up as a kid. Walked a lot. But anyway, I really enjoyed, as long as the dreams weren't nightmares, it was very, very exciting to dream. Wake up, remember fragments of a world so complex, of a storyline that seemed like those games, Myst or Riven, where you're searching out different worlds. Well, each dream you would enter into a different system, a different world. And I just recall, I just enjoyed so much when you would be in one situation or one area, and you would have a fragment of a thought of a past dream that was connected. I don't know, it's just very fascinating. It would be like dream wormholes, and that's how it's connected. Now there's no consistency, there's no plane, there's no circle, sphere, but man, you're in one storyline and you know it's wispily connected to another. And it's those wispy connections that, man, that would be the closest thing to exploring or explaining multi-universe and multi-universe connections. So it was in these dreams. Oh yeah, so I woke up in the morning and I would just, when I couldn't go back to sleep, man, it was just, I would just sit there and stare up at the ceiling. Be daydreaming. I'd be daydreaming so vividly that the image would pop on the wall. So just like night dreaming, you get an image in your mind. Well, the image was projecting itself right on the wall. Now once you're ready to get up, come to, that image is gone. So it's with mania that images get projected out of the concrete. So that's kind of the first bridging connection that I can offer you, whatever. So, man, a lot of my mania, I mean, I guess the first episode, it was, man, you pick, whew, I guess I was brought up Catholic. That can be the most intense experiences for the young mind. Growing up in elementary school, well, I guess, I was, every Sunday, you're chilling, you're hanging out in a big, I guess it's a privilege, but man, it really affected these symptoms later on in life, But let's see, being part of the Cathedral of St. Helena, it's quite the church. Quite the church, quite the energy, quite the religion, Catholicism. A lot of my first episodes were, that was a central theme. Now, I don't know if this was my own choosing or my own fantasy, but a lot of the connections and at the end of that episode, even entering that first episode, I guess I brushed through pretty quickly the Christian or Catholic or religious storyline in parts of my first episode, but leading even into that mania, that first mania. I guess I use the word, I don't know. I guess I just say a Halloween theme. I don't know, that can be a pretty powerful holiday. You have a whole, maybe a month leading up to it. It's a holiday that's filled with mystery. I guess it's correlated with, a couple days later, the Day of the Dead. Wicked. Yeah. So, a lot of my manias can get a very wicked storyline. So this is where, instead of projecting, or much as daydreaming up on my wall, is very, very easy to, well, it's not even easy. I mean, this just happened. So I was in Seattle. Oh, fuck. I just stubbed my toe. Okay. This is between episodes. In between the first and second. It don't matter. Second and third. It's definitely probably first and second. Because after the third episode, I kind of got the plug pulled from Seattle. It's too bad, you try to, it goes back to it. It's hard to support yourself. Or, no, that was the incidents when you're trying to support yourself, but then it's really hard to care for yourself at the same time. And that's why can't you care for yourself? That sounds easy, right? Well, it's fucking taking care of symptoms. So when your symptoms get the best of you, or ramp up daily, and it's hard to notice over a couple weeks, a couple months, it's just the way you feel, okay? But no, that's just gonna catch up, and then you can't. Then you're no longer caring for yourself or supporting yourself. You get the carpet ripped up out from underneath you. After my first episode, I actually ripped up my own carpet. Because I just woke up one morning and grabbed a big old serrated knife from the kitchen and decided this one room didn't need carpet. It was a rental. Living with my girlfriend at the time, and I think I woke up about 4:30, hopefully 5 o'clock. Maybe got another hour of sleep compared to a usual manic awakening of 4 a.m. But yep, that carpet was cut up, pieced up, and I was out the door before she was even awake. I was on my way to work. yeah, so in between those episodes, I just started, it just appeared. You look up in the clouds, up in Seattle. I like to bike around in the evenings. Usually after work, go bike around, go to some parks, check out the whatever plants and anything, edible berries, whatnot, edible plants, checking those out at the time. Really into that. So that was maybe a hobby that heightened the symptoms because you're really focused, and not just focused in a scientific way of learning the plants by names, but man, you're just experiencing them, seeing where they live. Very fascinating. So yeah, so I'd always kind of do that, and then I'd bike over to Fremont. I lived up top of the hill up in Green Lake, kind of a nice area, but I'd bike to Fremont down by the locks. There was a little co-op grocery store called the PCC. I'd always get some dinner there. It's always the tastiest meal of the day. Now at that time I was, I'd always feel a lot better eating just fresh fruits, vegetables. So I'd eat as many fresh fruits and vegetables throughout the day. Those would be kind of my calorie load. Then I'd get some dinner, something kind of higher protein, typically vegan at the time. I don't know. People are like, oh, that probably caused your symptoms. Well, I'm not going to debate that one. But I'm vegan now and symptom free, so I mean, there's not much logic. I guess there could be a little bit of logic. I guess there could be a little bit of logic in saying, oh, well, you're doing something that's out of the ordinary. Maybe you should just go back to, and it's never odd, maybe you should go back to a normal diet. It was all my coworkers say, oh, you should eat unhealthy shit. Like, eat all this unhealthy food, and just be like normal, just feel like normal. Well, I guess if normal's, kind of gets back to changing your habits, man. If normal's feeling like shit, there's no sense in that. So, yeah, that don't make no sense. So I'd get some meal. I get get whatever bean salad is super tasty. Sometimes that's when I started eating heads of romaine. Just uncommon foods. You just grab a head of romaine and just down it, just eat it all in one sitting. Takes you no more than 10 minutes. I think that's a shitload of food, but man. But anyway, so then I'd be by the locks, looking up at the clouds. It just looked, I don't know when it started too, you know what I mean? You're just like, when did this start? Because this happened, it was nightly, daily. Usually at night though, kind of twilight. The mind shifts just a touch, gets to see, is just a little bit more open-minded, I guess. The twilight. So, I would say this happened for like 4 months. That's a long time. Yep. So, looking up, everybody picks out clouds. They think they look like this or they look like that. But when they start to just look like one thing only, man, it's kind of heavy. Now, if it wasn't for the fact that I had my first manic episode, geesh, that was a period of, 2 months of intensity, of unknowingness. Holy Toledo. If it wasn't for that, then, what you're seeing in the sky on a consistent daily basis, that might be too much to take. It's just really weird just kind of looking at something that should just be a cloud, and you're seeing you're seeing stuff. Now, everybody's got the impression that if you're on... Guys just walked by, I don't want to freak them out. So there's an impression that if you're on acid or any of the, pro-hallucinogenic drugs, that you're going to be seeing stuff. And you think you're going to be seeing a lot of just different shit, like all the time. And that can happen. That can probably happen. That could definitely happen with mania, bipolar mania, schizoaffective symptoms, or symptoms of schizophrenia. But it's just bizarre when it becomes your constant state. You're looking up at the clouds every night. You're seeing the same images. So, I don't know, I guess I called them, the images were, I'll say it with a question mark, demons. But that's not quite the case. It's really very simple to look at any textured setting, whether it's a picture or inside or outside. Day or night, you can see, it can be very easy to pick out faces. That's probably the simplest thing. I don't know why I'm so, it deserves to be, so it's very easy to see faces. I mean, shit, you could look at a car. Car's got two lights, license plate makes the mouth, boom, you got a face. Maybe the logo makes a nose, you got a little face. Now, it's one step harder to make feet and arms and stuff, but if you just take faces, all you really need is two eyes and a nose, two eyes and a mouth, and you can find that pattern anywhere. Just looking at a textured thing, space out two different shapes, pick out a mouth, you got a face. Now, I don't know how easy this would be for me currently to just go look at some clouds at night, at twilight, or even during the day, because they would definitely happen during the day. Pretty much any time I'd be looking at clouds. But I just remember, I'd take my food down to the water, down to the Fremont Bridge right underneath, and just, kind of just watch the twilight go by, watch the colors change, watch the clouds, and always see that. Now, the other thing is I could also look at trees, look at the foliage, and also see faces. In the Halloween-like setting, I would see witches. That would be a very easy thing to see. So you're looking at a nice ever forest green tree. That's the perfect one. Nice thick forest green tree. You'll be able to pick out that image. At least for me, it's pretty easy. But that's going to be your texture that can really give you images. You have a large surface. Let's say you have a 100-foot tree, 40 or 50 feet wide, and you have a lot of ability to see different images in that textured setting. So there you go. So that's the canvas. So your mind does paint pictures against a canvas. It'll also take objects that are already there. If it's not just a consistent canvas, like an evergreen tree or clouds, so then you step up a little bit in image trickery, because now you're taking objects that are one thing and your mind's easily twisting them to make them look like something else. And this can get, this can get quite terrifying, because you can even look at a person and see them morph. See, if you can look at an object and think it's something else and project that, then it's really easy to look at a person and see their whole character project as something different. Even if you see it for something one way, 1 second later, you can you're just projecting that image, and the feedback in your mind is saying that's exactly what you're seeing. So it's very easy for people to look wicked. Man, that was and see, that's where it's going to get you into trouble. During one of my worst episodes, I was I left myself for homeless. And I did this, I guess I didn't do it to myself. I didn't want to do it to myself, but it happened. I became pretty much totally stranded, basically homeless, for 3 days out in Baltimore, Maryland. Man, goddamn. The first day of that was going to the hospital. And I even had the coherence to say, hey, I'm having a bipolar episode. I'm bipolar. I'm having these symptoms. I need help right away. And I went back to that hospital the second night. After the first day, they just said, all right, you're on your way. Huh? And so I did my thing out in this little suburb. Went to the Safeway. Man, just loitered Safeway about 3 to 4 times a day. Just, only bought like one item at a time, but then ate something. Just whatevs, man. Just trying to go to the Starbucks. I don't know. But it was not fun. It's not a fun experience. Man, the hustle and bustle of a different environment where you don't know anybody. And your situation. Totally fucked. Yeah, so I go back to that hospital. And I was like, I'm bipolar. Like, dude, you gotta help. Should have helped the first time, I thought. I need a place to stay. You gotta admit me for the night. I fucking can't stay on the street. But man, it was shitty because I had this nasty raggedy beard. I don't know, just kind of a Seattle thing. But whew, I looked pretty fucking homeless anyway. I had my backpack. So anyway, I was homeless to them, so they said, they were ready to kick me out, but they got me in for that evening. But then get kicked out again, so like 3 to 4 hours of sleep later, I have to wake up at 6 a.m. with every other nurse, and, I'm out the door by 7:30. That's a shitty thing. Yeah. So, yeah, that Safeway, man. I would just go into Safeway because it was just like something to do, right? I mean, there's nowhere else to loiter. You can walk around town, but that's tiring. And it's not even a town. It's fucking suburbs. But yeah, I just remember going into Safeway, and that whole character of that store would change, man. And it kind of just... That's when I started delusioning smell. I would... holy Toledo. That is not a fun one. Now, it's not... I mean, that's probably a least deal compared to delusions of sight. Because delusions of sight kind of take you back for a second, where if you just smell things, you can get to the realization that, fuck it, like, I'm smelling this, it sucks. But you try to not have secondary, tertiary symptoms off that primary symptom. Primary hallucination, that's usually not an issue. Anybody's primary hallucination, it sucks, it shows their state. But I mean, to a degree, it might inhibit them from functioning normally, but it's honestly the things that get you into trouble are the things you do after you experience a primary hallucination, where you go into the Safeway and everything smells different now. Holy shit, it smells. Whew, and you go over to food and that smells even worse. The same smell, but it's more coming from the food than anything. And food in a package, not so much. Food. So, and then all the food looks poisoned. Now, you hallucinate that all the food is poisoned, and yeah, it's like, so I thought, only food in a package, that's the only food that I should eat. And then I was like, well, shit, I better get my water out of a bottle too. So I go over to the bottled water aisle. Freaked me out, man. Because, these coincidences, sometimes you're just like, well, fuck it. Why is this coincidence happening at this very moment? But, so I go over to the bottled water section, and I was like, well, there's like the 2-gallon jugs, the 1-gallon jug. There's a big old 2-gallon jug, and it's actually leaking. And there's a little puddle on the floor. And you can see by its drip, it's like drip, 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 drip. That this puddle is, I don't know, it's like not much water at all. It's like quarter cup, just plopped right in a pile right on the tile floor. So then, your mind's like, well, that's not much water. So, well, shit, when did this start leaking? And there's nobody in the aisle. So then you're like, fuck. Like, someone knows my predicament. And this someone's like, dude, this is how you get to project. And I don't know if I've already said this from the very, very beginning, but I was thinking of it just prior to doing this recording, is that it is so easy to think that your mind, the reality in your mind, is the reality that is getting shaped. So how you perceive the world is obviously how you're taking it in. If you're taking it in a really fucked way, then that's what's happened. That's the way you're taking it in. If you're taking it in a very positive way, that's the way that you're experiencing it. But it's too simple to think or to know that that's actually the way the world's existing, is how your mind is experiencing it. Because that's probably one of the heavier symptoms, that it's really difficult to get your mind wrapped around very tangible concepts, especially the concept that there is billions of people on this earth, and that everyone has a mind, and that you would have a billion different scenarios going on. Not like you're really isolating yourself and saying the way I'm experiencing it is the way it's being experienced. It's also really, the mind can get so fucked where you're just like, oh, everything's just a projection of my mind. Nothing exists. I think as the world gets so fucked up, you're gonna take me wrong, but mental health illness can be biologically stemmed as a mutation for evolutionary advancement. Okay, so it's the anomaly that that kind of helps out. So when I say as the world gets more fucked, as the world gets more technologically advanced due to anomalies of nature, maybe it's nice to have billions of people on this earth. Man, because if it was just 10,000 and that's all you knew, like a little town, like a Truman Show, your mind would get so fucked. So maybe, I guess all that I'm saying is not even a scientific point, but that having billions of people in the world for all the mental health anomalies that are going on in the mind. It can be a constant knowing that there's billions of minds out there all experiencing sometimes the same stuff. Now, having a mental health illness does put you into a percentage, whether it's from 1% to 10%. It does set your mind apart for having more unique experiences. So some of the things, oh man, yeah, so in Baltimore, man, I'd walk into that Safeway and everything. Oh, I just remember the one time I just walked in one day and I was like, holy shit, everything's really funny. Like, everyone's funny. Like, it's like a circus. And people's faces kind of looked a little bit warped. They kind of looked like they were all, like, done up with makeup and just a little, you know, like, if I rack my brain for that memory of going into that Safeway, it's only just a couple frames, you know, a couple situations where I went over and then, like, somebody in the deli counter. And this is at the height of the smell delusion. Everything smelled really weird, and then things kind of sounded, you know, not too much sound delusions, but things kind of sounded like a circus. But no, people were actually the sound, yeah, because everything seemed funny. Like, everyone was like, yes, it was like a warped dream. Oh man, that would be like that would be the classic. Hey man, like, dude, I was on LSD and everyone was just fucking warped. Yup. Man. And then, you know, and then things got a little more wicked because I think, you know, later that day or like the next day, I was like really trying to loiter hardcore by spending at least like 2 hours in the deli eating like kind of one meal at their crappy little tables they put out in Safeway. And other people would eat their fake Asian meal. And yeah, I just, oh man. And then I kind of sat up they had higher tables with higher bar chairs and then lower tables. So I sat at one of the taller tables, made me feel a little bit safer. Yeah, and this lady, like, I didn't kind of see her entering, just barely, and then she sat down, like, kind of right in front of my table, like the first chair, so she's like facing away from me. All I see is the back of her head, and just black hair. I mean, my mind's too easy to go to, like, really that Halloween like theme. So man, I mean, because your delusion on color and stuff, black is always associated with death. Like crows, ravens, I mean, they were the keepers. Especially the vulture. Yeah, vultures, and then the turkey vulture? I think there's a nicer name for a turkey vulture. But man, just that black. So anyway, so I'm just seeing her shadow, and my mind's tripping. You know, it's seeing an object, and her character is totally changing on me. You know, and I get into my mind that when she gets up, she's gonna, you know, the storyline is like no more consistency. From boop, game over. Like, you've been cryptically spotted. I mean, it's like the Matrix movie where you feel like people are, you know, like, I mean, that's the person who poisoned my water, you know, who got there first. They didn't have to, like, get in the same plane to Baltimore. Fuck no. It's just, that's when you really believe that, you know, the things of your mind are totally just mental creations. Yep. Luckily, I mean, it kind of freaked me out when this Luckily nothing happened though. See, the storyline is very interesting, but I still believe it's the... Oh, yeah. Man. Yeah, I was saying that when you're experiencing delusional symptoms, there is no constant. And I think for most people, their concept of God is a constant. I don't really have a concept of God, because I nor think it matters. I think it nor matters, does not matter, nor is important. Wow, I just saw a green shooting star. That was very interesting. Now I'm standing kind of downtown near the Walking Mall. I'm actually right in front of the Holiday Inn, kind of the Holiday Inn. It's not Holiday Inn Express, but man, if you're ever down here, they have green lights. Now the shooting star was green for whatever reason. I mean, whatevs, but I don't think it was a delusion of color I was seeing. But it is interesting to note that green color, that Holiday Inn green color, they have kind of the green lights shining up on the hotel and kind of everything's neon green, but that's always the green color that I am the most delusional about. It definitely affects mood. It can change mood quickly. It brings on kind of that thought of the Halloween storyline. Very interesting. It's partially cloudy, but actually not really. I guess there's more clouds right on the horizon where that shooting star was, but man, only like a hand width up, and the entire sky above is crystal clear, so that was quite the spectacle. See, now if you're 4 years ago or 8 years ago for me, instances like that trip me up, because not trip me up, but they get me really intrigued to the point where, it's probably not going to be, you just get, it's not healthy. You just kind of get taken for a ride. I mean, you kind of take yourself for a ride. I mean, it's not like once you take yourself for a ride so much, it feels like somebody else is taking you for a ride. Yeah, that's interesting. I was about ready to say, death seems godless. Man, it's a hard one to say, because not for myself, but maybe for the people that I'm sharing this to, so... And that doesn't have to be in a cryptic way either. Just the people that would actually want to listen to this broadcast. That was a really interesting shooting star. It was green from the start, green to the finish. I don't know. I mean, if God is a constant, most people, I mean, dude, I don't even want to make statements for or the contrary. It's definitely not important to me. But I know, hearing a lot of people's stories, that it potentially is important to them. And so I can still talk about it, because maybe talk about it in questions, for people who want to hold those concepts. So if these delusions are without constant, and in their very nature they are, I'm glad I'm 8 years from first symptoms. Because if I was at the 4-year mark, kind of at that, I guess, halfway from now, I really wanted to go explore. And that's gonna bring on a lot of and that's just one of the symptoms. I mean, that's a very, very common symptom of bipolar mania, is to explore the symptoms of mania. But I guess I would wonder, but I really don't care though, because I mean, it's just all the same Christian mumbo jumbo that you hear anyway. Is if people are experiencing something that's very inconsistent, that they're going to find consistency in a God that they have been brought up with or adopted. And past that point, a lot of those things that are held constant, a belief system, are the most intangible things brought into existence. So it can be very juxtaposed to help oneself through those sources. After the first episode, leading up to after the second episode, it was the third episode that I got the rug pulled out, and I finally I finally came back to Helena, because I find a lot of stability here. I'm walking around Helena right now. I did the Waterline Trail this evening. I kind of started my thoughts on this right at the tail end of the Waterline Trail, just kind of walking back, and then did about a lap and a half around town. Between that second and third episode, I was experiencing my symptoms, and a lot of it's observations. So you're observing what you're thinking, what you're perceiving, any delusions, and it paints a picture. You're seeing connections. I was more fascinated with, I was in Seattle too, so the nature of Seattle is, just packed. I mean, you have the rainforest on the peninsula, but even Seattle and inland, you have some great cedar forests just packed in with vegetation. Yep, adjectives to describe, quite the magical place. That whole Seattle, just the waterways and you basically have the sea rising up to glacial volcanoes viewed right from downtown. You have all the intricacies of a very eclectic city. You have lives intermixed in a big city in a very unique way. You have homeless streetwalkers next to street performers and artists. Probably also are homeless. No, some of the... But anyway. So, I took a course in shamanism. It was offered in the fall. That was the full summer leading up to that I was eating half my foods from picked sources off trees. So half in town, half in the wilderness. 30 minutes to an hour inland from Seattle, up in the kind of the state or national forest. I started picking right at 1st of June with salmon berries. Was able to pick probably about 5 to 10 gallons of those, and that was real easy picking. That was just, because they're so large. man, and then all the berries, tried to pick a lot of berries too. And then in town, a lot of the fruit trees, pear, apple, but even in, plum, big plum trees, just massive trees. You pick plums for days. So I had my bike, and I had took like one of those plastic file cabinets, strapped it to the back of, and I had like a little rack, just one of those simple racks, connected to my seat post, sticking out over the wheel. But then on the side of it, that's where I took an NRS strap, strapped that baby down, that plastic file cabinet for like manila folders and stuff. I didn't have no manila folders in there though. That's where I gathered fruit. So on the way home, for the next day, I would gather all my fruit. I'd do plum. And then in the medians, so we just have these kind of like, so every uncontrolled intersection is like kind of a half roundabout. I mean, you got an island in the middle. And those island trees, most all of them are Asian pear. So, man, when they were ripe, I mean, that was king, right? I mean, you grab like 10 of those, that's, man. And then you go get some blackberries, grab a couple pints of those, hopefully a couple quarts if you can. Oh, you're living the dream the next day. So that's, half your calories, maybe more. So, I mean, maybe more Asian pears, you can pick 20. Basically just fill that entire file cabinet up. And then the pick. And that was kind of late summer, with all those fruit trees popping. And then at the end of August, first week, kind of last week in August, first week in September, and then the kind of that 7-10 days in September, I did 3 pickings of Stevens Pass, one of the best huckleberry years. I was just in heaven, loaded up. I got over, I would say, in one day, well, I think I camped. I can't remember if I think I camped up there. Hope I did. That sounds pretty cool. But, yeah, so one weekend I got 12 gallons. Weekend before I got, like maybe just 2 to 3. But that was the weekend where I'm just like, dude, gotta do it. So, got 12 gallons. And then went out for that last weekend. Most of them are pretty ripe. I think I just picked to eat. Probably just got another gallon or 2 to take home. But yeah, just boof, right in the freezer. So that was September till, that lasted me about a month. Man, them berries. So, I mean, you couldn't. I mean, even if you just imagine, even if you just eat whatever you're fucking eating right now, like whatever your ideal, whatever your situation is, whatever you're putting into your body, like you can just imagine somebody gives you a gallon of huckleberries and you're told you eat those and do whatever you're doing normal, but then eat a gallon and then multiply that by 15. Man, I don't support going wishy-washy though. It's like there's few people that I know that are truly spiritual people that can take on that as their life, as their way. Man, for the most part, the human body is just not made for that. Oh man. But yeah, I was perfectly prepared. I was eager to enter this course. Very preliminary, first year, out of kind of a 3-year course. But I mean, this is just kind of extracurricular. So yeah, so this was going to be one weekend, I think it was every Thursday for maybe just an hour and a half, hopefully 2 hours, for 2 hours. That was class, okay? And then, I mean, we did this for 8 months though, okay? But But actually, I only did the first, only about a month. No, about 5 weeks, 6 weeks. No, I did it, about 6 weeks. 6-7 weeks. Man, hopefully 7 times. Because, that kind of, very fascinating. We had 55 people. Probably say just like 4 of us were men. Dominant women. That's who, is most interested in crafting their spiritual gifts. See, this is the biggest difference between believing something and becoming something. And that's the door for spirituality, to become something. And I guess most people do it through outlets that are already there, okay? Because that's where they're going to be most exposed, usually quicker, or I don't know. That's just kind of where they go. But this is pretty fascinating. The course was called Intuitive Development Through Shamanism. It was taught by a woman who I guess would be known as a shaman. She's actually not of Indian or Native American blood, but as a young child, she grew up, well, I shouldn't say, I think her grandma was maybe like a Lakota. I forget that storyline. But, I mean, that was just the most amazing thing to me, is that, someone of non-Native American blood could be immersed in this culture. So, that was important to me because I don't have a whole lot of Native American blood. I probably have a very low percentage. But still, I felt that was a connection because I could still be kind of part of that connection. And, oh man, like at age 7 or 8, she was about age 8, I think she told me. Taken aside, she says, or she was asked, do you want to be part of, basically at age 8, she had to decide if she wanted to adopt these practices that she would carry. And she says if she would be given a year, she could ask any question she wanted. After that, no more questions. The actual work would begin. Not allowed to question what she was learning or experiencing. So she did this very extensive training through Lakota principles and Lakota ways, and very rooted in shamanism. But what we were learning was intuitive development, which, minus the shamanism adjective, intuitive development, can be very practical. I don't know, it's really intriguing to me though, so I loved it. So that's, I guess currently though, I have put all religion and even spirituality, like, totally on the side. Not even on the side burner, like back in the pantry, because it really helps my symptoms if I'm not focused on really any of that. Now, like, almost focused as a practice compared to being witnessed to, those are two very different things. Or being witnessed to, that's the same thing as in practice. It doesn't get wrapped up because I can still be witness to very spiritual things, but not have to go talk about them or go practice or set aside time. And those are concepts that a lot of people that have adopted a religion have a very challenging time with. But I would say that if they're ever diagnosed with a mental illness that causes delusions, then they're going to have an even harder time wrapping their brain around that the mind that they're experiencing during their high symptoms, or during their peak symptoms, or even during day-to-day symptoms, and how that ties in to their religious belief set. It can be not very practical, and typically just way too intense, just way too overloaded with the idea, with concepts that are rooted, that potentially don't yield practical purpose in a given day.